One of the things that's, and as we mentioned, and the president mentioned again last night, is he tried to explain what this thing is called, the sequester, and that is coming up at the beginning of March. If Congress and the administration cannot agree on an overall budget deal, then there will be these automatic cuts to defense, to social programs. And the president pointed out that this is not sort of a natural crisis, that taking the money out of the U.S. economy, we're talking about perhaps nearly $1 trillion over the next year if the sequester goes in place, with $85 billion taken right out of the economy in March. Most economists think that that would have a pretty strong negative impact on the U.S. economy at a time when the economy is still pretty soft. The president referred to this as a manufactured crisis if Washington can't solve this. Listen.
The greatest nation on earth cannot keep conducting its business by drifting from one manufactured crisis to the next. We can't do it. Let's agree. Let's agree right here, right now, to keep the people's government open and pay our bills on time and always uphold the full faith and credit of the United States of America. The American people have worked too hard for too long, rebuilding from one crisis to see their elected officials cause another.
Daniel, man, there's a certain sort of talking down to members of Congress there, treating them in a certain sense like children. I wonder if this is, if this is smart politics, perhaps, and perhaps it is, given that the approval ratings of Congress right now are in the low teens, and the president seems to sort of be playing along, saying that these are children, these are people who cannot get things done. We need them to rise above it. Your thoughts?
Well, David, I mean, it's actually just misleading, to be honest. I mean, in terms of strategy, it may actually be effective strategy. I think that the president was able to get the Republicans to cave on the debt ceiling. That was a big thing. He was even able to get them to take a government shutdown off the table, and that was largely by basically just sort of calling him out on it and doing a public tour, and a lot of us were wondering why he hadn't done that in past showdowns. But to me, it's misleading in that the president did help create the framework for these various budget ultimatums. Going back, as I've said, David, to the 2010 tax negotiations in a lame duck session of Congress, he didn't bother to make that a prerequisite for extending the Bush tax cuts for the rich. Instead, he let the debt ceiling become a tool for negotiation for the first time in American history. You could argue whether invoking the 14th Amendment was ever viable, or the $1 trillion coin. But at least the idea of that threat, and the idea that this time around he was able to eliminate the threat, but last time around in 2011, which was the debt ceiling crisis that gave us the sequester, he wasn't able to do it. Come on, I mean, the president should take some responsibility for that. And on top of that, he could also still at the very least be calling for a clean repeal of the sequester. And I think that, given the Republicans that have now moved away from their taste for austerity and their taste for spending cuts, because they at least understand that it's not polling well. And that's what we saw with Eric Cantor's policy speech last week, making life work. The biggest spending cuts he was talking about were spending cuts for public research on social sciences, on political science and economics and things like that. Not exactly sort of the grandiose language of Paul Ryan changing the fundamental nature of Medicare. So Republicans have less of a taste for it, and yet the president still sees this as the great opportunity for the $4 trillion deficit reduction. He has no one to blame but himself, and he needs to own it.